All right, let's have a look at this uh so-called new Dragon Age game.
It's been 10 long years since Dragon Age Inquisition, and the expectations for the next game in the series, Dragon Age the Veilguard, seem impossible. A full
Yeah, so it's been 10 years, but I mean, do we really want to like actually get a subpar quality because it's been 10 years? Like that's one of the things.
decade, a bevy of behind the scenes changes, and an interesting start to its marketing campaign made me a little worried for my most highly anticipated game of the year.
I
I'm not just a little worried, I am very worried.
admire you. What you've been through would break most people.
But one of my biggest concerns,
Look at the graphical quality here. Nothing looks polished. The UI, like the numbers displayed, the title text, the fact that enemies are probably just bullet sponges, and you're not even using the original way of playing this game. Like it's basically it's attempting a whole new approach to combat, which is very dangerous because people like the original combat, right?
based on early previews, was that it could be headed in the direction of being a linear action game rather than its more open world predecessor. While Dragon Age is known for changing its style with each installment, I hoped dearly that it wouldn't lose too much of the DA DNA I fell in love with. After hours of hands-on time spread across 2 days, I'm pleased
Yeah, so the problem with this is you're literally changing the game, and she's talking about the DA DNA, which is the original 2 games or 3 games, and this looks nothing like it.
to say that I walked away with excitement and curiosity, but mostly relief to wave many of those concerns goodbye.
I am not of the same mind. This is IGN's review, but I'm
My
I'm
time
gonna
with the
give you
Veilguard
my
covered
I'm
a
gonna give you
wide
my
smattering of things, including the incredibly
insight about this. I don't like the designs. I don't like the way the colors look, the models look, and even the clothing looks somewhat subpar.
expansive character creator, the introductory quests, a faction mission, and a companion quest a little deeper into the game.
Like even that right there, you saw like the attack just did nothing to the enemy. Like it feels like you're getting basically you're just seeing numbers pop up and it's going slow, right? You don't feel like you're powerful or in charge. You don't feel like you're actually doing damage. It's just like, oh, I'm throwing a bubble at him.
But I was mostly pleased with my ability to just explore Northern Thedas in all its gorgeously designed glory.
She's mostly pleased with just exploring the game, meaning there is no actual cool gameplay. Like yeah, there is gameplay, but it's not the focus of the game, which is what it should be. Like the focus should be the gameplay. It should be like, sure, the environment should be cool to look at, and even looking at this right now it does not look promising. But like the fact that she's saying like, oh, I loved exploring, it's not a thing you should say in a game that's got combat and has characters. Like there is gonna be a more dialogue focused game versus a game.
Experiencing a setting in Dragon Age lore that we've really only heard about. To be clear, the Veilguard isn't the open world playground that Inquisition was. As game director Corinne Bush has previously stated, it's more mission based. But what impressed me after the first few hours was how much exploration
Look
can
at the
still be
plank.
done in the various regions, as well as the impact the player character, Rook, can have on those regions.
And there we go. Easy. Wow, isn't that something?
Consider it something of a mix of Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. The more streamlined
Yeah.
approach of the former with the geographically and sociopolitically diverse world of the latter.
It's a mix of the two, which also means that it probably won't do any of those two things well. It'll focus on trying to do both, trying to like juggle several eggs in the sky, and then it's just gonna lose 5 of them in the process.
Of course, some of the bigger art style, combat, and gameplay changes will be subject to personal taste. But after my time with the Veilguard, I left feeling like these 10 long years just might have been worth the wait.
Yeah, that's an opinion.
As fans have already seen from the first gameplay trailer, players are dropped right into the city of Minrathous in the middle of the action as Solus prepares a ritual that will devastate Thetis. Luckily, our old friend Varric has recruited you to help, and it barely takes a couple of minutes for the game to put the focus on Rook.
Yeah, it puts the focus on Rook because that's what they want, and Rook is this character.
After a surprisingly concise story recap from Varric, there are a number of aspects the Veilguard starts easing you into.
Easing. Sure.
For one, the combat. Gone are the days of Dragon Age Origins' more CRPG-inspired tactical system, offering a style that's a mix of quick action and
Yeah, gone are the systems that used to be the mainstay of the actual game, which is what we wanted for this game, but now is not getting for this game because they want to make it a action light with slowdown like procced abilities that you can pop open here as you see the wheel time slow, so you can even make the shit slower, so you can basically, that's kind of like what you did in Baldur's Gate, but like now it's an ability you have to trigger and it won't stop the enemies, it'll slow the enemies. But like that just is kind of like a weak way to approach it. Like I don't know why you wouldn't keep the original interface. Like, why aren't you building on the thing that people loved? And sure, a lot of people don't like turn-based, like, action games, but the people that do like turn-based action games are playing it for that. They're not playing it for what is supposedly like a light fucking action game or whatever this is supposed to be.
a mechanic where you can pause and pull up your radial menu. While this absolutely does take some getting used to, and it'll be a gradual process to create what could be a highly customized build while learning all your companions' different abilities, it didn't take me long to actually start having fun with it.
It's having fun here.
I largely played mage and rogue builds during my hands-on time, and also quickly started to lean on certain companions' abilities. For one, the mage healing ability was essential. For one particularly difficult remnant, I basically established a pattern where I was
he took about like a pixel worth of damage on his health bar,
only using Balara's mana to heal me, dodging and playing it safe when it got too risky. Nev's ability to slow time was also one I kept returning to, offering a bit more control on the battlefield when the situation got a little too fast-paced.
So this is the slow time ability, okay.
And for you glass cannon builds out there, you'll want to have a warrior around to taunt your enemies out of your way.
No problem.
Like a whole lot in the Veilguard, combat revolves around your companions, even though you can't fully take control of them like in previous Dragon Age games.
So yeah, you can't take control of the pawns, essentially, of the companions. So you can't actually control them, meaning like you're not even playing the game, actually. They are playing the game for you. So if you stood somewhere and just had a party setup of 2 tanks, or 2 tanks and a caster or something, or 1 tank, a caster, and a healer, and you're the 4th, then you don't have to do anything. Basically, essentially, you don't have to play the game. You can just move around and do little like support motions.
Different companions have different combo options together, and there are certainly opportunities to build team synergy. Oh, and you'll want to listen to your companions in combat too, as they'll occasionally drop some useful hints.
Useful information. Hitting us from range. He's doing a ranged attack now. And you're getting hit by it when she's saying it. Useful.
But combat aside, your dialogue choices, your rook's background, and the frequent decisions you make are immediately important, which shouldn't be too surprising for fans of BioWare games. The dialogue wheel is back, of course, as is the approval-disapproval system.
We haven't got a lot of time. Varric said you had a lead on Solus?
You get right to the point.
We haven't got a lot of time, whereas in fact in a video game, that's all you have. Like, you know, your resource is time. You have enough time to sit and think, unless they force you to make a decision, in which case it's pressurized gameplay, which is like more railroady, and we gotta keep things moving to keep it exciting. It's like, but like in this, in Dragon Age, the idea literally was you were in control of your actions. That the time only moved forward when you wanted it to, so that in combat you can pause the combat and make strategic decisions without being pressurized to feel like you're moving on the whole time, right? So I don't know if it's a zoomer mindset that they rather want to be fucking just go, 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 go. But like me personally, having enough time to make a decision is kind of a useful thing. And it's not because I can't think fast, it's just I like taking my time to enjoy things, you know, and like the idea that you need to rush through the game and to even feel gratified by its content, it's a little shat. Like, I don't know, it's a little bad.
But I was surprised to see that the Veilguard actually explains the consequences of some of your dialogue choices in very clear terms.
See, you say that.
It's a variation of the so-and-so will remember that system, but more specific.
But we do have Nev's location now, so...
And here we have the you know, the patent pending like dialogue choice of like just an absolute asshole going like, I hear your opinion, but fuck you, I have my own opinion, right? This girl bossing energy.
Take, for example, my first confrontation with Solus, aka Fen'Harel, aka the Dreadwolf. I chose a more sarcastic, humorous approach with him, and at the end of our confrontation, text on the side of the screen informed me that I have traded verbal jabs with Solus.
This is your responsibility now.
Yeah, we didn't even see an
was far
example.
from-
We didn't even see an example of this verbal jabbing at each other. Was it fun? Was it interesting? Probably not.
The only occurrence of this sort of text, and it leaves me curious as to how your relationships with various characters will build and branch out over time based on your attitude.
See, this leaves her curious because it sounds like she hasn't even fucking played the game. Like, if you haven't played the game, why are you making a review of it? Like, if you haven't actually played the full entire game, how can you release a review of a game that isn't released? You haven't fully reviewed it, you haven't fully seen the whole game, and now you're making a review about it.
Speaking of consequences, it quickly became clear to me that there would consistently be tons of choices in the Veilguard that'll have lasting results. It probably sounds like I'm stating the obvious here, but I got the sense that even more of these kinds of choices might be peppered throughout than the usual BioWare game.
So again, sounds like she hasn't actually played the fucking game.
Right at the beginning, for instance, I made a choice that led to Harding getting injured, and she was still bruised up for the remainder of the next couple hours. I felt like a real jerk about it, and that was probably the point. Dragon Age the Veilguard.
This is an interesting thing in which you're showing damage on the character, and I think that's cool. Like she fucked up, she made a bad choice. Shows this like damage on her character for a while, and that's cool.
Seemed to be telling me right from the start that I'm going to feel like a jerk a lot.
You don't slow down for much.
Like, feeling like a jerk a lot is not a positive thing for the video game. Like, that you sit there and you feel like an asshole the whole time. Why would you enjoy that? Why do you want to be put in a position of being a terrible character, playing a terrible character, doing terrible choices? Why would you want that?
Do you?
Without spoiling too much, you'll also be able to see some of your progression and choices in the environment around you as well. But once introductions were out of the way, it was time to explore the wide world of Thetis and see its past and present collide.
Shall we?
Let's do this.
As mentioned earlier, one of my biggest worries was that the Veilguard could end up being more linear in its approach, trading branching gameplay for a straight line. And sure, the opening hours, essentially the tutorial zone, are a little railroady.
So, no one wants anything railroady. No one wants that. Nobody wants to be stuck in a tutorial for like an hour or half hour or even 20 minutes just being like, I need to learn the game. Let people fuck up in the game. Let them understand what they're doing wrong and then introduce it through the game. Don't force us to fight like 4 guys so you can learn how to block and parry and all that stuff.
Save for a couple
just
key
kinda
decisions
lame.
you have to make. But once you're past that and more established within Act 1, you're much more free to tackle quests as you please as you unlock more and more regions. You do this via the Crossroads. For those of you who aren't brushed up on your Dragon Age
So Crossroads, this is new for me. It seems like you're just doing quests from a portal, which that's gonna take away from the entire idea of exploring a world. It's like if you just start like quests from a portal, it seems very like you're not wanting to make the world part of where you're going. Like you don't want people walking towards the place. You just wanted to click X to start a quest.
lore, that's a nexus between the waking world of Thedas and the metaphysical realm of the Fade, through which the ancient elves would travel through magical mirrors called Alluvians. You now use the Alluvians for that same purpose, and to unlock new regions, you have to fight through certain areas of the Crossroads before you can start.
So you can't pick where you go, you have to literally unlock the next area so you can actually go there. So there's no exploration as such. You have to fight the boss in order to unlock an area to go another place. And in Souls games, it's like an actual thing where you can choose your direction. And that works really well because it encourages exploration. You can find items in the wild and stuff like that. But this, or you can fight bosses that randomly show up in different locations, but it happens in a natural way. It doesn't happen in this like, oh, we go to boss, unlock gate, to go to new gate, to go to new world.
Fast traveling to them. Unlocking said regions opens up a vast network of areas, and not unlike past Dragon Age games, they're dramatically different from one another.
As the gods' champion passed freely, so will you.
Take, for example,
So, yeah, now you're in the Elven Ruins, like you have to open a little door to get here, and all this is all fancy, but yeah, in general, there's just a lot of stuff that seems like it's locked behind things.
the Arlithan Forest, a gorgeous, colorful region that mixes greenery with elven magic. You can see nugs burrow into the grass, magical artifacts abound, and there's a vast array of nature to simply admire.
Just simply admire. Nobody's gonna stand there and look for 5 minutes at a pixelated tree. Nobody's gonna do that. Like, the only games that allow you to do that are games like Skyrim, were games where you had a massive open world you could explore, and you could even enhance it through mods to make the world look more beautiful and picturesque, and then you could go around and explore it and look at the creeks and the wolves and whatever. But in this, I feel like it's more like a railroaded existence where you keep heading towards the goal, and the surroundings is not so much the as you'll see later, the surroundings are not so much the idea here. The surroundings are just more like a setting that's here. It's not meant to enhance your experience in any way. And the little like mini games and whatever that they put in this is just, it's empty, it's bland.
Hit with a massive tone shift, however, when you head to Haussburg.
Lavendel Village. Whatever happened here looks like Demeter's Crossing.
Currently under siege by the Blight,
Like just this section you just saw there, not a single thing caught your eye. Like nobody's interrupting you or yelling at you. Nobody's like going towards you. They're all static NPCs doing nothing, you know.
here is where you'll see some of the more horror-inspired aesthetics, and frankly, just some of the grosser aspects of the Blight. While the Veilguard's tone certainly leans more high fantasy in places like the Crossroads, don't worry. Those who miss the gore and dark fantasy of Origins will find that too in places where the Blight has spread.
Right. Except there's no blood, there's no decapitation, there's no, like, nothing like that. That's never gonna happen. There might be some bodies on the ground that's just there.
But I couldn't help but spend a lot of my time just running around in Treviso, the bustling city that's...
Again, nobody's gonna actually do this. Nobody will actually spend that much time in here, because they are not, like, what she's saying is she's actively not playing the game, so she's spending time here, but not, what's the point? There's nothing here to do.
Home to the Antivan Crows faction. For one thing, a lively city feels like a novelty in Dragon Age.
A lively city. It's not.
But there was simply so much to explore that I kept getting sidetracked. A merchant with unique items here, a new quest to pick up over there, and a random combat encounter over there.
Right. Which is like, just thinking about what she just said there is like, these things should be there as a bare minimum, otherwise the city's absolutely dead.
And that's just when I wasn't looking around for a cat or dog to pet. Because yes, you can pet the cats and dogs.
You can do this. Which is
Outside
a
of the cats
3-second,
and dogs,
not
there are
even
some
animation.
unique ways to interact with the environment
Doesn't
as
feel
well. Each
fulfilling.
companion has an environmental ability, some of which came in quite handy for me. In my time in the Arlethan Forest, I frequently called upon Balara, whose environmental ability allows her to tinker with magical artifacts. In a nice quality of life feature, your companions don't even need to be in your party in order for you to use these abilities. As an aside, another one of my favorite quality of life additions is the fact that party banter pauses and picks up again later if you trigger combat, a cutscene, or anything else that would interrupt their dialogue.
Yeah, so I don't know about that. It seems like okay, so she's saying you could play it without the companions, you use the fucking abilities, but you know, what makes that more fun to play other than its base minimum like interaction with everything else? I think, yeah,
that's right. No more awkward standing around in order to hear the complete conversation.
Oh, yes.
If you're feeling overwhelmed, the difficulty and accessibility options do allow
So the NPCs talk to you while you're moving around, so you can never escape their constant chatter.
for about just as much or as little hand-holding as you need. For example, with one Antivan Crow's quest I was doing, I could turn the navigation on and simply follow the game's guidance, or turn it off and look for clues in the environment to follow. In this case, the crow's purple symbol painted on certain walls.
Another mark this way.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most obvious of obvious marks. They might as well shine a damn spotlight on it.
I also just happened to be playing an Antivan Crow Rook while completing this quest, which led to some fun dialogue options.
We crows are all the army Antiva has, but it's not like we can field a garrison.
Once I was in the
Fun dialogue option.
thick of things, I could clearly see the features in the Veilguard that boiled down to, okay, we heard the complaints about Inquisition, specifically addressing the infamous Hinterlands problem, which is a reference to the first open-world area players visit in Inquisition. The zone was packed with more than 50 side quests, many of which boiled down to mere fetch quests, and it left
Many of which boiled down to mere fetch quests. You know what's not fun to do? Fetch quests. Like many of them are fetch quests. So go get an apple to give to the Cinderella Dalaran. Now he has his apple, you get 2 coins. Good job. Great.
many players drowning in a bevy of checklists that felt inconsequential to the story. The Veilguard has boiled this down quite a lot. You're still free to explore, but the scope isn't nearly as dizzying, and the quests point back.
The scope isn't nearly as dizzying is another way of saying the scope is the most narrow it could ever possibly be. It's just, there is no exploration.
Back to the main story, a region or faction, or a companion. Another clear reaction to criticisms of Inquisition are our villains in the Veilguard, Algernon and Gillenane. The 2 elven gods feel much more present throughout the events of the early game than Corypheus, the frankly lackluster baddie of Inquisition.
Whatever comes, we're ready for a fight.
Words easily said, but rarely proven.
While
That's Morrigan. How they changed, what did they do?
Comes, we're ready for a fight.
What did they do to Morrigan? What the hell? That's actually crazy. To think this is the if this is the Morgan from the other like Dark Ages or like the other Dragon Age games, this is such a weird direction they took Morgan here.
Words easily said, but rarely proven.
While there's a whole lot more Thedas to see and talk about, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it back home to the Lighthouse.
Right.
The Lighthouse will likely be the most important location of the Veilguard.
So, most important location because there's nothing happening here. It's literally just a nexus. It is a quest giver. It is like a resting zone. And if that's your most important zone in the game, I feel like that's not necessarily great. Like because as you can tell, nothing is going on here. There's no life, there's no people, there's no NPCs, there's no things moving, there's nothing happening. It's just, oh, yellow exclamation mark. And that's not where you want your most exciting shit to happen. Remember how in Souls games, there's like an actual dynamic interaction with the resting place, with the table. Like you go there and NPCs will just magically appear there. They will disappear. They will come back. People will be dead somewhere. A new NPC will unlock, and basically this NPC will like give you new items and sell new items depending on what you've done in the game.
Serving as the hub for you and your companions. Each one of your companions has their own room, and conveniently, a light shines outside of their door when they have a cutscene available. Once you get further into Act 1, it certainly starts to feel more lived in, and you can discover some pretty charming...
It certainly starts to feel more lived in, because in the beginning it just feels empty as fuck. And it will be empty as fuck. And nothing will be happening in there. Because they are not going for a dynamic world that's a living world, at least not in the beginning, it seems, which is what you really want. You don't want like an actual dead fucking tower.
Character quirks. For example, I found that Emmerich's skeletal assistant Manfred enjoys spending time on the balcony, and we even got a few games of rock, paper, scissors in.
Rock, paper, scissors, a game that small children plays and then gets tired of after like, after like 2-3 sessions of it. They're like, who wants to play this anymore?
The Lighthouse is also, obviously, where you're able to do some housekeeping, especially when it comes to the Caretaker.
So yeah, the Caretaker is now the new system for upgrading enchanting items, which used to be a very charismatic dwarf. In most of the Dragon Age games, they were like a dwarf that knew how to enchant lyrium and things into things. Now you have this random, no-name, whatever the fuck this is.
I will answer.
This wildly helpful spirit is always standing by to help you enchant and upgrade armor for you and your companions. But I found the Lighthouse somewhat symbolic of one of the biggest challenges this game is facing. Bringing in new players.
Like, remember, like, enchantment guy. It just to see that now it's been turned into this soulless, like, click spirit. I can enchant item. Doesn't say a word about it. Just enchants it for you, like some kind of... Basically, you turn the NPC into a vending machine where you go and you get a Twix from it.
While honoring the now incredibly vast lore that Dragon Age has built across the games, comic books, short stories, and more.
Honoring the lore, using zero of the character and the lore.
Basically, if you were worried that the name change from Dragon Age Dreadwolf would mean less Solus, think again. His history, along with the history of the other elven gods, is baked into the Lighthouse, and you learn more and more about the threat you face as you unlock Solus's murals with various wolf statues. You even get to...
So these wolf statues, they seem pretty inconsequential, not that important. You put it down, you get a thing, and it's whatever, move on.
To see some of his memories firsthand.
They need gods who can protect them.
We are not gods. You will learn that.
As a lore nerd, I very much appreciated this, as well as the various other callbacks to series history. The Origins fans will likely love the Grey Warden heavy.
Look at his
The various other callbacks to series history. The Origins fans.
Look at this very bi-curious elf we got going on here.
Fans will likely love the Grey Warden heavy quests, and we already know the Inquisitor will be involved in some way, as you can recreate them and select your world states in the character creator. But I do wonder if it'll overwhelm new players, which BioWare certainly seems to be courting with its action-heavy combat system.
Action-heavy combat system that looks like it's slowed down so much that I could have done about 3-4 other attacks in the same time.
That's why it helps, at least, to have something of an outsider like Rook to take the helm of the Veilguard. Plus, the scrappiness of Rook reminded me a bit of playing as Hawk in Dragon Age 2, rather than the more Chosen One-esque protagonists of the Warden in Origins and the Inquisitor in Inquisition. In short, a lot changed in Dragon Age the Veilguard, but there
A large change, but is it a change we want? No.
was so much I was relieved to see stay. The focus on companions and romance, the
focus on companions and romance is arguably not what Dragon Age ever really did, and is something that women want more than anything in most video games. It is a focus on making romantic little escapades, dating people, sending people roses and such, and it does work to a certain extent, and boys like to do that too. It does certainly work, and it does certainly also feel like it's a kind of welcome addition, but it's not just an addition. I feel like this is the focus of these stories. A lot of these games now are going to be focusing on the romantic side of engagements with people between you and me, or women and men. By the way, this character looks a bit like me, actually, which is off-putting on the left. But basically, the idea that Dragon Age is supposed to be a dating game, like a romance novel, is in an entirely different direction, and is crazy. That's not what Dragon Age was ever about. It was about saving the world. It was about being a hero. It was about making tough choices.
rich lore and a gorgeous world to explore. It goes without saying that there's
a gorgeous world to explore. That's not the focus of the game. And the focus is to do little quests and then have romantic inquiries and do little shitty mini games that nobody wants to do.
still a ton of the Veilguard that I haven't seen, especially if it's as big as Origins and Inquisition, and it certainly seems like it. But after finishing my preview, I found myself even more eager to dive into it, and much more hopeful that this could be the hit BioWare needs.
So she found herself even more eager to dive into it because she didn't actually play the full game. And when you haven't played the full game, and if it even remotely interests you, you want to play more of it to make an opinion about it. And I think that the fact that it is so shallow and the graphics does not even look that great from a distance, this game, I feel like it's going to do very, very poorly. It's going to be just like in terms of like success levels, and it's going to maybe hit, because it's Dragon Age, right? It will probably attract a large audience, but on top of that, it's gonna really quickly see a lot of those people refund this title, I feel like, because it does not look like a title that people wants to play for long. It does not look like a title that you want to replay. It does not look like a title that will impress a lot of people, and on top of it, it seems to be somewhat political. And you can't even see this from this right now. You cannot see that it's that way, but I'm pretty sure from what I've seen so far that there's a little bit of gender politics going on in this. And because it is there, people don't care about that fact. They don't care about the romance aspects. Only to a certain degree they do. Like games like Baldur's Gate, like maybe it's fun to do a little bit of romance with a character there. But like that's not the focus of Dragon Age, and it never was. So trying to make it into this like weird twisted version of two different genres, slap them together, add some romance to maybe get the girls invested, it's like I don't think that's gonna work out. I think this is gonna do very poorly. But that's just one man's opinion on this. Like, let me know what yours is in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. StealthMoustache out. Have a great day, and probably don't buy this game.